Hello, distinguished friends and colleagues. This is Stuart Hamilton, the Pro-Life Activities Coordinator for the Archdiocese of Louisville, Kentucky, serving under Deacon Stephen Bowling. And this is 5 Minutes for Life, where we take 5 minutes to discuss one topic, one event, or one ministry that affects the pro-life community here in the Archdiocese of Louisville. Right off the bat, I want to say I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July celebration. I know that I did. And in keeping with that theme, in this episode, I would like to discuss a relatively controversial Supreme Court ruling that was handed down last Friday. Now, this ruling actually expands protections for religious freedom, which is great. It's almost providential because you probably know that last week wrapped up the USCCB's Religious Freedom Week. So what I'd like to do in this episode is discuss what was that case all about, how does it actually expand protections for religious freedom, and lastly, I want to respond to some Christians who have had a negative reaction to this ruling. So first of all, what was the case? It was called 303 Creative versus Elenis. And I'll lay it out for you real quick. A Christian website designer based in Colorado named Lori Smith. She has had her business for a while and she's made all kinds of websites for all kinds of people. But she wanted to expand her business to include wedding websites. She envisioned it to be websites that tell married couples stories in a celebration of marriage, particularly a Christian conception of marriage as being between a man and a woman. But unfortunately, this can run afoul of the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, which lists members of the LGBT community as a protected class. So she petitioned the Colorado court and said, if I expand my business to include wedding websites, will I be forced to create websites that celebrate same-sex marriages? And the court actually said yes. And if you don't, it will be a violation of the law and we can strike you with crippling monetary fines, mandatory state-sponsored sensitivity training, and even compliance reports. Well, Lori says this really violates my constitutional free speech laws and all that kind of stuff, so she sued. And this court case made its way up to the Supreme Court, and the USCCB was actually among the groups that filed the amicus brief on behalf of Lori. They recognized the freedom of religion implications that a case like this may have, saying that no Christian should be compelled by the state to create something that runs contrary to their personal faith beliefs. And you know what? Thanks be to God, the Supreme Court agreed. I want to read you just a little bit from the majority opinion by Justice Neil Gorsuch. Quote, laws along these lines have done much to secure the civil rights of all Americans, but in this particular case, Colorado does not seek to ensure the sale of goods and services on equal terms. It seeks to use the law to compel an individual to create speech she does not believe, unquote. Now, the majority opinion goes on to describe a situation in which if the state could so compel individuals this way, the state could wipe out any kind of idea or speech that they don't want or that isn't in vogue for the state at that moment. So it poses a quote-unquote substantial risk to removing certain ideas from public dialogue, and that is a violation of the U.S. Constitution. They go on to offer several hypotheticals. If you could use state law in this way, hypothetically, you could force a Muslim filmmaker to create a film that supports the Zionist movement in Israel, or an atheist could be compelled to paint a mural for evangelical Christendom, or more on point, the hypothetical of a married gay man forced to create a website for a church that publicly decries same-sex marriage. All of these would be the state compelling free speech, and that is against our constitutional rights. So make no mistake about it, this is a free speech case, but obviously if we take this at its word, the majority opinion is actually protecting religious freedom as well, because it's saying we should not be forced to create a good or create a service that runs contrary to our faith beliefs, and no one should have to do that. Okay, so hopefully you see that point, but now I want to answer some of the negative concerns against this Supreme Court ruling. The best argument I've seen from some Christians, even some Catholics, is, look, Anti-discrimination laws exist for a reason. It is wrong if you provide some public service to say, well, I'm not going to provide that service for certain people with certain immutable characteristics. For example, it's wrong for me to not say I'm not going to provide my business for Jewish people or black people or even gay people. That's unjust discrimination. And you know what? The Catholic Church would agree. They would never support that kind of case. But that's not what kind of case this is. As a matter of fact, Lori Smith proved to the Supreme Court that she has worked with members of the LGBT community in the past. She has no problem working with anyone as long as what she's creating does not violate her faith. So presumably a gay man that wanted her to create a website for his cookie baking business would be a-okay because cookie baking does not violate her Christian beliefs. But what the court's saying is that's categorically different from a gay man asking her to create a website that raises funds for pride parades. So the majority opinion actually strengthens non-discrimination laws, but it makes the distinction that this is not a matter of saying, I don't want to work with someone. It's a matter of saying that just because you provide a public service doesn't mean you have to create anything. There are certain things you should not be forced to create because what you're creating runs contrary to your religious belief, and that's why it is a great win for religious freedom. Now, that wasn't the only Supreme Court case that expanded freedom of religion rights. There was another one, but I don't have time. I'm over my time limit, so I'll talk about that one in the next video. If you like what I'm doing here, please smash that like button. Please share this video, and remember, every human life is worth fighting for because every human life has value in the eyes of God. We'll see you here next time. God bless.